Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally with my November What Would You Make? Some of my favorite things to collect are made from wood, and I just so happened to get a whole bunch of these ornaments at the dump. Someone had put them together for a local event and had a bunch left over, and I decided that I am just going to flip 3 of them today for you to go with a vignette that I did in one of my more recent videos for Christmas. And I am just literally going to take this pretty green color and paint the backs. This is just to, if in case it flips over. I don't want to have to fill these with wood filler as I have in the past. This is just simply to give the backs some color. And then I am going to turn it over, and then on the front of these, I just want to add some Mod Podge to each of the 3. And then I'm going to take this gorgeous antique sheet music that I have, and I'm going to lay that over all 3 of these, and then let that dry and Mod Podge over the top of the sheet music once I cut that out. And then that will give me a beautiful background. This antique book paper is a bit brittle because it is very, very old. If you just have a plain white sheet of music paper, you can, get this age by coffee dyeing or tea dyeing that page beforehand and letting that dry. It does wrinkle a bit, but that's fine. It adds to that vintage charm. I'm adding a coat of the Mod Podge over top to protect it because it is so brittle, and then I'm taking my sandpaper and just sanding all around the edges and taking that off. And that will also give me a nice shiny surface so that I can add some transfers over top of this very easily, and they will adhere nicely with that extra dried Mod Podge layer. Polyurethane works, spray urethane, any of that sort of thing is always a good idea before you add your transfers. And I have a lot of beautiful scrap IOD transfers, and I decided that I'm doing a rather non-traditional Christmas this year, and I'm actually really enjoying that. This could be used all year round, actually. It looks a little shabby chic when I'm done here. But I thought that it was nice to just do something a little bit different. I have a lot of green in my Christmas decor, a kind of a sagey green this year, so I thought that this would be pretty and also allow me to use up the scraps. I like to make sure that I use every inch of my IOD transfers, and I love that you can cut them and create something different out of each of the scraps that are left over. So for the first and second ornaments, I'm just using the beautiful pinky rose here, or apple blossoms, whatever they are. And then I'm using the stem, which has some white berries on it, but I want to have just a little bit of the leaf left over to fill in an empty space at the top. So I'm just cutting off just a little bit of it, plus also this way it will fit the rounded surface a little bit better as well. And so that is the beauty of these. You layer them on top of each other. Now, once I have those finished, I like that distress ink look around the edge, or some antique wax or whatever, just to really bring that 3D effect, to really make that look like it pops off, give it a very finished look. If you don't like that distressing look, you can skip that, or you could use some gold if you really like the gold rub and buff here. If you have a lot of gold in your home decor, that would really go well here as well. And then get that all finished and add a finished coat on top. This could be polyurethane or spray or anything. I happen to like this glossy Mod Podge for this, protecting not only the sheet music but the transfer as well, so that these will be good for years to come. And then I had just enough of this beautiful green ribbon in my stash to make hangers and bows for each of these. And I love that the color is absolutely perfect, not only for these florals, but also for the vignette. And then unplanned, once I put my vignette together, I realized that that antique music paper was, with the antiquing around it, was absolutely just the perfect pop to go with the yellowware bowls in my vignette that I had already created. So this just personally, I think for my living room just came out perfect. If you did not see the video where I made the display, it is a couple weeks ago, and it is called 5 Under 5, and it is music inspired. And so this Christmas, very non-traditional Christmas vignette is for Partridge in a Pear Tree. So if you missed that, check that video out. I had 5 beautiful items that I created for that, and I thought that these ornaments worked perfectly for this color tone. So let me know what you think of item 1. Of course, these are made out of wood because this challenge is What Would You Make?, which is a monthly challenge hosted by Brenda at Rustic and Lace. Christine from Divine Design. The guest host is Alicia from Lavender and Lace. Check out their channels and the playlist in my description box. Now, my second item is this adorable little sifter that I got at the Goodwill bins for a couple of cents. And this does have a little wood knob on it, but I am also going to add a wood item to it to make sure that this goes along with the What Would You Make theme. But I am starting with this metal piece, and I do want to make it a little bit rusty. So I'm just taking some of that Mod Podge, and I am just hitting a couple of edges here and there. And then once I have that, I'm going to just take a mix of some cinnamon and cloves and nutmeg and things that I had already in this bag. I had just enough here to kind of recreate this look and give this a little bit of a rust look. And then in order for you not to have this go all over the place every time you touch it, it's a good idea to cover it again. A little messy here, hard to do this a little bit, but just hit it again with the Mod Podge and let it thoroughly dry, and that keeps it all in place and makes it resemble rust. Then I am going to take a green. I do not have the perfect color green here. I may go back and add a little more dark antiquing wax over this piece off camera just to make this a little bit darker green. But that is what I need. I have to remember I want a really nice, deep, antique green color paint next time I'm out and about. So I want to just hit that little piece of wood to make it look like the antique green kitchenware. And I am going to then go ahead and take a piece of foam and put some foam in the bottom of this little sifter so that I can add some items to it. And once I have that in there, I go through my stash just to see what it is that I might have in the Christmassy theme stuff. I don't have a lot of that, but I did have some adorable snowshoes. They were kind of an ornament. I took the hanger off, and they were a little bit broken. I picked them up at the dump last year, and they were still brand new, but I don't think they were ever great quality. So I just glued that, and it came out fine. Stuck that in, and then this little reindeer came on a large rope, and I have several of them. It's not the kind of thing I would hang from my mantle, so I decided I would cut them off. You could use them as ornaments, and here I'm just going to use it as a filler, and also the little Santa. And I believe that I got all of these at my good table at the dump. So he is my wooden element, that reindeer. And then I'm going to add a little bit of greens and a little bit of red berries and a little bit of moss just to make this full. And it is so sweet. I love the green on his hat and how that goes well with the green in the kitchen items that I got at the Goodwill bins. If you didn't see my Goodwill haul, you definitely want to do that. That's last week's video. Unbelievable stuff, probably $400 worth of vintage stuff for less than $40. Now I'm taking one of these cheap plastic candy canes I got from heaven knows where. I am clipping the top off, and I am going to go ahead and just wrap that with some bits of scrap pieces of fabric that I have that is just a bit of a pale red and white stripe to make this look more farmhouse, and definitely a lot nicer looking than these cheap plastic ones. And get that top finished off. And then for my this box that I'm going to put this in, I got this for a couple of cents, this little wooden box at the Goodwill bins, and it just says logo here or something on the front. So I'm looking for a sticker in a sticker book I got on my good table, 90% full. and I want to cover just that little, logo here thingy. So I found a wreath and I decided, you know what, I'll probably end up covering this at the end, but I just don't want the word logo here sticking through. So I just kind of added that wreath on there just to cover the letters, and then I'll go from there. So again, I'm going to fill this cute little box with some foam and go through my stuff and see what I have. I had picked up, I think last year, this very shiny, glittery Christmas garland, and I'm not a fan of glitter, so I don't want glitter all over my home. I decided to cut off some bits and pieces of it and just put that right here with this beautiful little red cardinal, also from the good table at my dump. I'm telling you, my dump is insanely crazy. So I'm just filling that in with all these sweet little bits and pieces that I have, just to put a little gift item together, a little thank you for someone, or a little, thinking of you at Christmas time. And then here's where I decide to just put a little wreath over the green one. Not that I didn't like the one below, this just added a little something, and then wanted to carry that candy cane fabric down into the bottom of the box just to give this a little bit more of a pop of Christmas red. So that one was very, very simple, and I'll give to somebody. And then this one here I think becomes my favorite. I have this, I want to say, frying basket. I'm actually not positive what it is. That's what it looks like to me. There were a whole bunch of them at my dump, and I think I took 2. And then one of these little patty pan jello molds I do get, I think, at Goodwill bins and antique stores very cheaply. They don't weigh anything, so a couple cents here for these. And then again, same thing, I pushed a little bit of foam into the bottom of that little jello mold, and then I'm just taking, I had very little of this green left, but just enough to, and I got this at Timo years ago, to just fill that in the back with some berries. I end up clipping some of those berries back because there's just too many white berries in that. And then some pip berries, and then just going to cut little bits and pieces because I don't have a lot of room to work with in this little strainer or this little fry basket. It's pretty small. So I'm just going to fill that in. And then I need a wood element. So I had this adorable little wooden gingerbread girl in my stash. So I wanted to pop her into the front for the wood item here. And then just add that little jello mold into the fry basket and add a bit of homespun fabric, make a bow. I had a couple of pieces of the pipberry left over, so I decided the handle needed just a little bit more, so I wrapped just one on either side and then just kind of wrapped it around my finger a bit to make it curl. And that came out so adorable. There was a little bit of a blank space at the bottom, so I decided to just take some brown craft paper and go ahead and cut out a little banner, crumple it up, put some antiquing wax around the outside edges of it and glue that on. And here it is on my tiered tray in my kitchen. And I think that it came out so absolutely adorable. Pretty much cost me less than $1 to make, and is definitely something that I will keep here for the Christmas season. Definitely goes nicely with a lot of the aluminum and tin style items that I have there. So the color tone is perfect for that. So that is, I think, my favorite item today. But you'll have to let me know whether you like the ornaments or these, which of these 3 kitchen utensil crafts, thrift flips, trash to treasures, whatever you want to call them, that I have made for this What Would You Make challenge. I am so grateful that you have stopped by. I would appreciate it if you would share my video with someone. I really would like to hit 5,000 subs. If you would hit that hype button, that would really help. Thank you so much for dropping a comment, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.